And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lane, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. And okay, it's February. We're not quite in the garden mode. Actually, I've done quite a bit of gardening. I've planted a few plants, evergreens. Want to get those in. Fruit trees are in. My garden soils are prepared. I've insulated many of the root balls with some shredded cedar bark. I kind of feel like I'm on top of it. And then it snows. I mean, such a heavy snow this week. This is how the snows are through March in the mountains of Arizona. They're very heavy and wet. And it only gets worse because March is even a heavier, wetter. It's kind of a wet cycle for us. It's a good thing. Your plants love snow in the landscape because it doesn't just rain and run off. It actually sits there, percolates and penetrates, and it pushes deeper that moisture into the root zone. Evergreens love this. Fruit trees love this. Lilacs you'll find they bud up very nicely because it's had some snow. It's a real good thing for your plants. That's why it's good to plant your, let's say, maples or aspens or fruit trees before they wake up. While they're still here in this cooler climate, they prefer that. Now, I planted a 3 Arizona cypress. That snow, I had staked them. Luckily, this is why I say stake. All your trees should be staked. That snow came up and they were leaning over, just weeping from the weight of all that heavy snow. Took a brush, a broom, and just dusted off. They perked right back up. The sun got on them. So when you see a snow event like this, you really do want to go out into your landscape, put the gaiters on, put some nice rubber boots on, and go out and just knock the weight of that snow off. It'll perk them right back up. It also does another thing. Snow buries plants so they can't see the sun. And so if you take some of that snow off, it allows them to warm up, allows them to perk up, take in the sunlight, they actually get more sun because it's reflecting off the snow, and you've taken that snow off their branches. They like this. It's a good thing. If you were to plant a spruce tree, let's say you had that living Christmas tree, and you planted that out in the yard, which would be fine in January. That's great. This snow you didn't stake it, it would have gone flopped right over, more than likely. It wouldn't have damaged it. You just have to go back out, perk it back up, try to pack the soil around. So staking trees is important in the mountains of Arizona. I would say more so than anywhere else because of this wet, heavy effect of the snow, and with this prevailing southwest wind that blows on your plants as they're just starting to leaf out. So it starts in March, and that prevailing southwest wind doesn't stop until the monsoons come in July. And so as they start to leaf out, they'll start catching that wind. They start leaning to the northeast, and then you got a tree that's leaning on you. And once that tree ring solidifies, it stays that way. It is hard to get a tree to go back. Once it's used to growing with a dog leg or leaning towards the northeast, it is hard to get it back. In fact, I would say impossible to get it back. So staking, super, super important if you're planting trees, any kind of tree, any size tree. Now, I'll only keep that Arizona cypress. I planted 15-gallon Arizona cypress. They're as tall as I am. They're starting to see some size to them. They'll really grow this spring. I'll probably let them grow, no more than 18 months, probably a year. And I'll test them. I'll go, can you guys go off your stakes now? So I'll take them off as soon as I can. But I'll leave them on for about a year to maybe that second growing season. Then I'll take the stakes off. Some of you are leaving your stakes on way too long. I mean, it's just the trees are holding the stakes up now. You just don't need that. But that's the reason I say stake. Since last fall's, fall is for planting trees, especially. The next best time is now. That's why I say staking is so important. Getting that soil amended is so important. I've been preaching for the last month to friends and family. Water your landscape. Water, water, water. We haven't seen moisture in so long. Finally, this week we got enough moisture. I mean, this was a real moisture event. The other storms we'd had a dusting of snow, but was hardly anything. There just wasn't enough moisture to be had in it. This one actually had some serious moisture, which is good. Your landscape's going to love that. Your ponderosa pines, your pinions are going to love this. They're going to thrive on it. In fact, you'll find as soon as this warms up right after this, you get a 60 high 50-day event. It is going to ignite the daffodils. They're going to see your buds on your lilacs going to just take off. This is a tremendous time to be putting wildflowers down. I couldn't think of it. I've actually taken my wildflowers and thrown them on top of a snow event like this. It worked out even better. It was amazing because as that snow melted, it percolated down and just buried the seed for me in the yard. It was great. So poppies, your echinaceas, those blended seeds that you have. We've got a butterfly mix, a butterfly and hummingbird mix we put together. The flowers, the wild perennial flowers that they are naturally attracted to. We created a wildflower mix for us at this altitude that is just like magic. This type of snowy event is the perfect time to put those wild seed out in the yard because they thrive on this snow. Now, what'll happen is if you don't take that weight off of those trees, off of even my lilacs took in the chin. The lilacs were just weighted down with all this snow. They were like, they were part in the middle and just kind of separated down. I just took that snow off of there, took the weight off, and they perked right back up. What happens is with our winter snows, as soon as this storm system clears out, there's this major cold event that happens. Just gets real bitter cold right afterwards. And so what you don't want is that tree. Let's say it's a spruce tree or fast growing deodar cedar. Just the tops start to weep and start to lean over with all that snow, the weight of that snow. Then that cold comes and that the sap freezes within inside of that tree, which is fine. It's okay for that. They don't mind the freezing. But what it does is almost solidifies that weep, that droopiness to the tree. It forces it to stay that way. Sometimes I've seen this happen over the years where they don't come back. They just stay this weepy look. So I'm real sensitive. I'd like to take that so the top pops right back up and starts to go. I don't want the freeze to come right after the storm and then solidify, freeze that sap, and then it just stays this weepy, droopy. Spruce. You get these beautiful swooping branches that are so majestic. They're native. I mean, Spruce Mountain is right here, just outside of Prescott. They're magnificent. A great plant for here. Good time to plant one. You're good to go. But if the snow comes and it gets this, now it's not this beautiful, majestic branch. Now they're weeping down, hanging from all this weight, and then it freezes. All of a sudden, it can keep that form from that point forward. So just slightly sweep the snow off so they perk right back up. Don't clean them off so there's no snow. It's fine. Not that, just that big, bulky, heavy snow. They're not going to like that, or it can do some damage. So with that being said, I say you can actually cut back on the watering. So I say water twice a month, even in the middle of winter, especially during the middle of winter. So people have been asking me everywhere I go, should I be watering? I'm like, yeah, I've been saying that on the radio for 2 months now. Yes. But you told me I didn't have to. No, I did not tell you that. I would never tell you that. I've been preaching. Plants use moisture. In Arizona, they use moisture even in winter. So in Wisconsin, in Michigan, Minnesota, they don't, because you've got 8 foot of frost line. They're frozen. Here, plants aren't frozen. They're moving slowly, but they're still moving. So you want to hydrate them every once in a while. Before this storm hit, I made sure, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I went and I watered by hand, took the hose out, and watered all my container gardens and my more sensitive raised bed garden, just to make sure. I didn't know how much moisture was coming in the storm. I thought, I'm just giving insurance. Watered them, and now they'll come through just fine with all that. Okay, we got a lot in store for you. I have Lisa Lain coming in with your garden questions right after this. And we are back in the studio with Lisa Lain. She comes in each week with your garden questions. Just what are people asking? Even in a wintry kind of stormy system, gardeners are starting to think. I posted a picture of our winter blooming jasmine. We just swept it off. It's in full bloom.
Yeah.
Under the snow. And I posted to Facebook and Instagram. It like instantly went, all the gardeners went, oh my gosh, that's great. That's so exciting. Not like that, but not in that pitch.
I'm sure it was just falsetto.
Like that. It was kind of fun to watch. Lisa, welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Always good to be here.
So it's been a workout this week. You don't need your gym membership at a garden center, especially when there's a snowstorm.
Everybody else gets to lay in bed and drink hot cocoa and enjoy their lives. Garden centers, we have to get up and scrape and knock snow off of trees and unbury junipers. But hey, it's okay.
It's fun. I still enjoy it. I like being out there, scraping the driveway, listening to kids playing in the snow in the background, kind of hearing them. Just there's something about a snow day that still, it's been, I don't know, 50 years. I still get excited.
It was fun to see the kids this morning.
Yeah.
We're kind of in a neighborhood that doesn't have a lot of kids, but we have a lot of hills, great hills. So it was fun to watch them. I remember we did that with our kids.
Yeah, it was fun. The hills are great with sleds and all that kind of stuff. Sure beat the farm. We raised our kids in Skull Valley, and there we don't have hills. It's just a valley.
Yeah.
And so we put a rope in the back of the pickup truck and then have them ski, sled, whatever, behind the pickup truck. Kids, whatever you do, don't hit the barbed wire. Just whatever you do, your mother will have my head.
Yes, she would.
Anyway, so questions.
Fun. Oh, okay. We want to talk.
Well, it seems like we should throw some gardening. We're 2 minutes in, and all we're talking about is snow.
Well, so Sam would like to know, he just put in some new fruit trees, so newly planted within the last week and a half or so. Wants to know, is this snow this cold going to be an issue for those fruit trees?
That was Sam, right?
Yep.
Okay, Sam. Don't worry. They love it. This is the best thing ever for everything in your gardens. It's like if you planted them right before the snowstorm, you were like, that was a good move because it's going to hydrate all the soil. It was a good snow. So that snow, about 6 inches of snow will penetrate, is about 1 inch of rain, which will penetrate what you see up in the snow. That's how far it penetrates down into the soil. Mm-hmm. And so we've got the entire root zone is now moistened and all the soil around it. So it's like, that's the magic. Mm-hmm. Where you really got to worry, if you folks that are tuned in the White Mountains, Flagstaff, Williams, those are the cold areas. If the ground freezes solid, okay, that could be something, but that just doesn't happen this time of year. I mean, February, March, you can get a frost line, but it's millimeters, and then it thaws instantly, like the next day. So the snow will melt very quickly. And so that what the benefit is, it hydrates your fruit trees. And so you can take the edge off. You don't have to go water your trees for a couple of weeks now because you had a good, Mother Nature did it for you. So I think, Sam, you're worrying about nothing. Don't worry. Enjoy, sip some more tea, bake some cookies, enjoy, look at your fruit trees budding out and getting ready. It is the time to plant those before. It's better to plant them now while it's frosty, wintry, than to wait until the leaf to bloom. We have, in March and April, where they're at risk of more shock that way. You're better off this way. Anyway,
I would say make sure they're staked.
Oh yeah,
because we had quite a bit of wind with this last storm, and if you don't have them staked properly, they could break or they just get frozen weird.
Yeah,
so make sure you stake them.
All your trees at least for 1 year, and then you're probably good to go. So they've got once they put on that next year's ring of wood, they pretty much solidify in that format. So that's good.
Okay. So Jenny would like to know, her ornamental grasses took a beating with the wind, the rain, and the snow.
Yeah, they did.
Is it okay to cut them back now? And how far back should they be cut?
Yeah. So Jenny, great question. So yeah, they're looking ugly. They're just beat up, the pampas grass. All those plumes are just laying on the side. They're just cut them right back to the ground. And so most ornamental grasses, you're cutting back to about ankle high. Pampas, that really ginormous one, that one's maybe knee high, a little bit less. You'll know because you'll see all the last year's growth. Last year, there's this curly Q thing that happens underneath there. You'll know where to go. So just cut them back, fertilize them with the 744 all-purpose plant food, and they will take off with new growth here shortly. I mean, usually grasses start to grow in March. So we're talking days away at this point. So and you can tell the plants, they're budding out. They're starting to, I cut back our mums. You're starting to see the growth come up. The peonies, you can see the eyes starting to show. They're wanting to go. So just go for it. The other question I should answer, because I got this at Rotaries at a luncheon on Tuesday, Prescott Frontier Rotary, I remember. They were asking, oh, when can I prune back my roses? Hold off on the roses, because roses can be hurt by this kind of event. You want to keep that structure up over your roses for now, and then cut them back in March, because by March we're done. We can still see snow, but that cold, the bitter cold that comes right after the snow is far less likely in March. If you're to do that now, whenever the storm clears, there's this cold event that just gets real, spikes down real cold. That can damage a few more canes. And so you're left with, probably wouldn't kill the roses, but you'd be left with stubs instead of nubs. I don't know. You want your roses to be done, 3 to 5 canes about knee high when you're all done. You don't want, ankle high, because winter came and helped you even more.
Okay.
So, but yes, prune back ornamental grasses. Hold on
now's time.
roses. Yeah,
Okay.
now's the time.
Sounds good. So Tom would like to know, do you prune blueberries, or you just let them do their thing?
Yeah, good.
And the second part of the question is, when do you start to prune blackberries and raspberries?
Sure. So great, Tom. Yes, you prune all those. Blackberries, you don't do a lot with them, but they can get this mangy. You give them a haircut, make them look shapely and pretty. So that's about all you do with those. Now, what was the other one? Blackberries and raspberries. Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Blackberries and raspberries, prune them back now. So go for it. And generally speaking, now we get into caveats, little tidbits of different varieties. But generally speaking, what the encyclopedia, the garden books say is prune back last year's canes that fruited, leaving all the fresh new canes that grew last year that didn't really fruit. Those are the ones that are going to produce fruit this year. So you want to prune. That's both raspberries and blackberries. They're both the same. Marionberries, they're kind of all those brambles. They're the same. So cut back last year's cane that had fruit on it, and then leave all that entire cane, the whole thing. Don't cut it back at all. Just train it back to the fence or back to the guide wire, back to wherever you want to keep it. And then that thing is going to load up with fruit this coming spring. So I don't have time to go into details on how to go all that. Come in and see us. If in doubt, take a picture, bring in, and we'll mark it on your phone. Here, prune this one out, prune this one out. And so now's the time. Now before the end of March.
Okay. So some of the raspberries and blackberries they've come out with lately are more of a shrub form, like the shortcake varieties.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the same as a blueberry? Do they prune on old wood, new wood?
I'm not sure. They've also got the new Gem series. So there's a new series that prunes on first year wood and second year wood, although there's more production on the second year wood than the first. But there's both. That's where we got to maybe let us know what variety, because we're talking, I don't know, there's like 100 different varieties. Grapes. You prune back grapes right now. Just go for it. Now, grapes are totally different. You're just taking those right back, basically back to its main stalk, maybe keeping a form there. But really, you're pruning those things back hard. I mean, they grew 10, 15 feet last year. Mm-hmm. You don't want all that on there. You want all that energy to come back, because grapes grow on new vines or new canes. So you want to cut it back so all those new canes start growing out, so you get more production. Mm-hmm. So I think we are just about out of time. Those are really good questions this week. Time to prune. You should feel the urgency. Time to get your soil ready. You should feel the angst. You should, second that snow clears, you should be adding manures and fertilizer, getting those flower beds, getting the vegetable beds ready, because planting season's like days away.
Good time to put out your wildflowers.
It is. Great time to put out wildflowers. Ken and Lisa Lain, the Mountain Gardeners. Be right back after this. There are three key, I would say, companion plants that just love February. Really, they're the companion plants of February. There you go. They're all perennials, and you'll find them at garden centers in February. This is when they show up. They're the first crops to actually show up at a garden center, and they should be planted while it's still wintry cold, early spring. By the time you get into May planting, they're all gone. It's done. I mean, it's kind of, they're done blooming even. So one is Lenten rose or hellebores. They go by two names. Hellebore, it's this botanical name. So if you're tuned into Fine Garden magazine, hellebores are all the rage right now because they're an evergreen perennial, about knee high, a little shorter than knee high, call it 18 inches, with these bright, kind of bigger than a golf ball, just smaller than a baseball. That's that size flower, covered. They're just covered in flowers. It's got a real thick, leathery foliage to it. These striking, big, leathery flowers to them that hold for weeks and weeks, if not months. They bloom a long time. So Lenten rose or hellebores. The common name, your grandparents probably called them Lenten rose. They have kind of a rose. They're definitely rose colored, but they can come in blacks, pinks, whites, reds, a lot of different colors you can mix and match. They're companions with lily of the valley. So lily of the valley is a shrub that's kind of a taller thing. They're definitely knee high, if not a little bit above. And so it's an evergreen, again, perennial, shrubby kind of thing. So it's knee high, kind of ball shaped. It's held its foliage all winter. It's got a striking kind of red tinge to them. Most varieties do. It can be a little purpley tinge, but they've been loaded up with flowers since last fall. I mean, they've been teasing us all winter, kind of like a lilac. They bud up all winter long, and then finally, late winter, early spring, they go into bloom. And lily of the valley have the most fragrant. I mean, I think they might outdo lilacs and roses for their fragrance. They're just striking. And they're companions with the hellebores because they both prefer a more shaded area. And so they're perennials. They come back year after year, and you can count on them. They're going to bloom every single year, every spring, very early, or winter, very late. This is their season. This is when you find them at garden centers. Great in containers. If you're tired of those boring containers, they've been looking dead since the geraniums died, put some hellebores in with some lily of the valley, and you've got instantaneous beauty that will look great throughout 12 months out of the year because they have evergreen foliage. The other companion, there's three perennials kind of go together. So each month we try to put together a mix of plants that can be planted that month that look good and that go together. And so these are the three: hellebores, lily of the valley, and peonies. You see peonies show up at the garden center in February. They're always one of the first things. Now now a good peony will have been rooted at least 2 years, if not 2 to 5 years is how long we've been growing these perennial varieties. English varieties are typically 2 to 3 years old before they come in. And then your Ito, the great big tree peonies, the bigger ones, they're typically about 5 to 6 years old. So they've been at the farm for a long time, fully rooted. They come into the garden center still dormant. We don't want to bring them. They damage so easily. So you want to ship those while they're still dormant. The eyes will start popping out. You start seeing new growth. It wants to go, but the root itself is much more established. These are old plants. And so they'll be a little bit more expensive because they've been at the farm so long. But if you do that, you're guaranteed to have spectacular blooms this spring. You can find some cheaper ones online or at a box store or something, but they're 1 year old. They were just potted basically. And so you'll plant those, and it'll be 2 years from now, 3 years, 4 years from now before they actually bloom. If you're going to do a peony, get the more mature one. They're just not worth the wait. So you just want just trust me. It's too frustrating to plant something and try to nurture it, try to keep it going. People come in and talk to me. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. They just won't bloom. They just aren't old enough. Perennials typically need to be at least 2 years old before they'll bloom. It's a maturity thing. Whereas annual flowers, They bloom for a year and then they kind of don't come back. That's an annual. It's just grows for the year. Those typically are just several weeks old and they'll bloom. That's pansies, some of your geraniums, petunias, most of your vegetables. These are all annual crops. They only need one year and they're fabulous and then they die. Perennials come back for years. Really perennial, permanent. If you're going to plant flowers, go with perennials. Yeah, you'll pay a little bit more up front, but you've got years of enjoyment from now till whenever till finally you move away. It's pretty much till the kids throw you in the home. They're going to keep blooming. That's how good they are. That's a perennial for you. So, but you can get tricked sometimes. Fruit trees, same way. You'll find fruit trees showing up all over the place. But typically at the box or they're whips. They're just 1 or 2 years old. Well, a fruit tree has to be minimum 5 years old to 10 years old. So 5 to 7, they start to produce fruit. And so here at Waters, they'll be a little bit more expensive, but everything is of fruiting age or older. So they're guaranteed to produce fruit this year. We're purposely, people shop here because they want it now, not later. All right, we got a lot in store for you. Boy, I can go on that soapbox for a while. Be right back after this. And we are back with Lisa Waters Lain in the studio. She comes each week and just shares her garden perspective, what she's seeing, what flowers are tickling her fancy. Is that even a garden saying? I don't know. Can flowers tickle your fancy?
Sure, why not?
Sure. It seems fanciful to me.
I agree.
All right. Lisa, welcome in the studio.
Thank you.
So what do you got for us? What are you sharing? What insights can you give the listeners as they tune in or watch?
So it's here. It's happening. Trucks have arrived.
Oh yeah, the plants are coming. They're in rotation. Man, they're coming like crazy.
The last few weeks were like trucks are coming. They're coming, and now it's like they're here. Yeah. So we finally gotten some trucks of new spring stuff in, which is always fun and exciting. And then one of the plants, I brought some nice samples for those that are watching. Get to see some samples of some Lenten roses or hellebores, which are actually a great perennial for here. It's a nice little, gets maybe 1 to 2 foot tall maximum.
Below knee high.
Yeah. They do like a little bit of a shadier spot, especially in the heat of the summer, but they're actually an evergreen perennial, which is very unusual for around here. But I brought some in. You're probably
showing them off. This is the benefit. So just so you folks that are tuned in, so this is broadcast over terrestrial airwaves, traditional radio airwaves, and then it's also streamed by podcast forms. We break up each segment. So Apple and Spotify folks, you get to watch the video piece of this. Oh, while you're looking at that, could you do us a favor? Do us a just like, follow, do all that kind of stuff, because we're the little player. We're going up against some big boys, but our ratings go up. Google ranks us higher if you actually like what you're watching. Yeah, just like would you please just like us?
Tell everyone.
Anyway, you're showing off the Lenten rose or hellebore.
Yeah, so we've got I think 4, maybe 5 different varieties in. This is their ice series.
Yeah,
and you can see it's a very variegated kind of a cream and burgundy color. Absolutely gorgeous.
And loaded with more buds to come. So this thing's in bloom and gonna bloom more.
Right. It's not done by any stretch of the imagination.
Try not to cover up your face on the camera.
Yeah,
Sorry.
It's fine. Go ahead. But just a beautiful little early blooming plant for you, especially those people that just are like, I need some color. This is perfect for that. It gives you that early color.
That folks don't maybe new to the area. So if you're new to gardening, so this is a winter crop. We don't have these in the spring and summer season.
Right.
They come late winter, very early spring, because they bloom very early. And if snow gets on this, it doesn't care. It blooms longer. It loves the cold. We had a winter blooming jasmine in bloom in our house.
Yeah.
Where we were dusting the snow off this last week, and underneath it's in bloom. It's loving. Right. Winter bloomers love this kind of weather that we have.
So this gets down to -20.
Yeah.
Which if it ever gets down to -20, I'm moving.
Never seen that. Yeah. As soon as we do
so
that.
Yes, it can take the cold and keep on going. So that's a real pretty color. This one is a really nice dark Merlot color. hardly shows up. It's so dark on there, but you can kind of see the
I would call that
center.
black. It's beautiful.
Well,
Wow.
they call it Merlot.
Okay.
But isn't that pretty? Just I see the two together.
The yellow
or-
stamens coming out of the flower
Right.
just is so beautiful, the contrast. And you could plant these together in the same container. Let's say a container or raised bed for
Sure.
front edge, because they're going to get, I don't know, 1.5 feet tall and just get nice, full, evergreen foliage.
Right.
Oops.
We have a ivory one that would be super
Oh.
attractive to put those two together
You
in a
mean black
pot.
and white? I'm talking to men now. Black flowers and white flowers together, because that's a black
Sure.
flower. Come on.
It's Merlot.
Okay.
It's a nice Merlot.
Mm-hmm.
And then just one more, just because they're so pretty. You got to show them off. Definitely a nice color right now.
Yeah, this has got, let me just describe it so it's not boring for you folks driving down the highway just listening to us. This has got like 7, 8 blooms in full bloom right now. It's got a green foliage that's like leathery leaf, which makes it very robust in the dry climate. So needs some shade, but it loves the dryness that we have, and it will bloom like this. It's got, I don't know, baseball size flowers. A dozen of them are going to come up, blooms like this for an extremely long time. And it then when it's done, you pinch the flowers off, and then it just has this beautiful
Foliage.
Be great with heaths and heathers,
Oh, yeah.
lily of the valley. There's a lot of these kind of companion perennials. This is perennial country like
Sure.
I've never seen. So perennials grow better here than other parts of the country because we don't get disease.
Right.
And the beauty with this, animals don't eat them. So they don't, deer, rabbits, you folks out in the valley areas, the antelopes are becoming a problem. They're not going to bother Linton rose or hellebores.
Same thing. Same critter. Hellebore and Linton rose are the same plant. Some people get confused, so I just thought I would.
Hellebore is
Cleared that
botanical, and the common name is Linton rose. And
Right.
sometimes we call it Linton rose hellebore, just to include it all in there. So it's just this, I would say February's companion plants, one of the key plants of February. And you'll see them now through, as soon as this crop's done, maybe middle of March, you won't see them again
Even if
until
that
next year.
long.
Yeah.
So I
They're
would
in
say
bloom.
if it's something you're interested in, it's definitely one you want to check out. Don't come to me in May and go, "Where's all the Linton
Where are
rose?"
they? I personally hope they're all gone by this weekend. So
So definitely. Also, we did get in. They're not blooming, and they're just kind of in the pot right now. But if you want to get them planted, some peonies. We got some Sarah Bernhardt's. We got the red and the pink, and those are just the start. We'll definitely get more in.
Oh yeah.
But great time to plant. Absolutely great time to plant because they are they're starting to wake up. Their little eyes are there, but they're still very dormant. So get them planted. You get to enjoy the blooms this year. You get to enjoy the foliage. So it's a great time to
That's
do
one
that.
of those, if you're new to the area, new to gardening and garden centers, these are very limited crops. We have to guesstimate that, like those Linton roses, those are 3 years old. We had to guess 3 years ago how many we would actually sell and then bring them in. Peonies, those are like 5-year crops. So you get the Ito peonies, those are 5 years old at the farm before we bring them in. And we're guessing 5 years ago how many you all would buy out in the public. So when you see them, peonies especially, they don't look like much. So, but they're going to have this fragrant bloom that just like your grandmother had, they're going to have that. If you wait until they're in bloom, there won't be any left because every cart has, as soon as they crack color, every cart's got one on it. So you want to catch them early so you get prime time, the best color selections, than rather than waiting till end of April when they bloom.
Right. So now we got the Sarah Burkhart red and pink, and then we got the Shirley Temple, which I think is real pretty. It's kind of a white with a blush touch to it. It's very, very pretty out there. We also got in some lilac. So it's the start of lilac season. So we definitely got some of those guys coming in. We have the Angel, which is, I love a white lilac. I know it's not the traditional. We have a white one at our house, and I just love it. So we have the Angel, which is the white. We have Sensation, which is another real pretty one. It has that variegated purple with white around the edge of the bloom. Very, very pretty.
Quite striking. Especially if you're going to cut it off and bring it in a vase or something. Oh, it's beautiful.
Definitely. Blue Skies, which is a very light lilac color. It's not dark purple, but it's very, very pretty.
Like a sky.
Ooh, like a blue sky?
Blue sky, It shows up better from across the landscape. So
Right.
you're looking across to your
The
landscape.
lighter
and
color.
I like
shows
that
up.
lighter color shows up better than dark purple, some of that. So
Mhm.
from a design standpoint, that's how you use those.
Mhm. We also got Pocahontas and
That's a traditional. Yeah.
one or two other ones.
Yeah.
But there again, what a great time to get them in because you get to enjoy
Yeah.
the blooms on them. Your neighbors get to enjoy your blooms on them. And you're not looking at somebody else's going, oh, I need a
want one now.
lilac. I
Yeah.
should go plant one. We also got a couple of different magnolias in.
Oh, that's neat.
The Elizabeth, what they think is yellow. And I forget the other one, but I'm pretty sure it's pink. Rosemary.
Oh, gotcha.
So we got those two lists. So those are ones that bloom in the spring. They bloom before they put their leaves on. So they're gorgeous when they're blooming. And then when they're done blooming, they put their leaves on and you enjoy them for the rest of the
there's
season.
two types of magnolias. You southern folks, you think there's only a southern magnolia. It's got to be an evergreen with a white saucer-shaped flower. It's actually the prettier ones. The hardier ones are deciduous. That is, they lose their leaves in the winter. Then they get the bright flowers, much more fragrant than the traditional southern magnolias.
Mhm.
So you've got both. And again, those are more animal resistive than some of your others. If you're in that
Mhm.
wildland interface, you've got deer going through there. I don't know about elk. Deer that keep javelina is not going to bother them.
Right.
Personal experience. So with that, we're out of time. I know you got a whole list of plants that
It's
are here,
okay.
but they'll have to come
You
in
have
and
to
just
come in.
yeah. When the snow clears, just come and visit and get your garden fix. Ken and Lisa Lain, the Mountain Gardeners. Be right back. Let me see if I can cover this in a 10-minute segment. But this week's garden column was on gardening for newcomers. If you're new to the area, this is a different place. We are a 4-season climate, but because of our altitude, our dryness, and our water, and our wind, and our sun, altitude, it changes. There's some variables that change. And so I was explaining, so let me see if I could just expound upon that. So if you happen to catch that, if you're part of our garden club, you can sign up and you got that article directly from my desktop to yours. If you get the local paper, any of them, it was this week's column they published. And so we started with zones. We are a zone 7. 7 means plants need to go freezing. They need to go down to close to 0, about 10 degrees before they freeze and die. And so zones are the lower the number, the more cold they will take. So a lilac could be a zone 2, 3, or 4. They go down to minus 40 degrees. We'll never see that. So you need plants that can grow from zone 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, down 7 and below, and you're good to go. And so if you go above that, you're going towards Phoenix. Phoenix is more like 10, so garden zone 10. They never see freezing. If those plants, you take a saguaro, and if they even see cold, they'll freeze and die. They turn to black mush, fall over, and just ficus. That's a house plant up here. But down there, it's a yard plant they use around the pool. But it's a zone 10. So you're looking at your zones as how cold can they go in winter before they are damaged. And so you folks that are tuned in from Sedona, maybe Camp Verde, Cottonwood, okay, that's Cordes Junction, Hillside, Skull Valley, Kirkland going the other way, you're probably a zone 8. So you need plants and go down to about 15 degrees. You definitely get cold. You saw that this week. You got some snow. That's a 4-season plants. You need plants that can take that. And so it just comes out. You folks on the ridgelines, Highland Pines, Groom Creek, the Williams, Ash Forks, Seligman. You get that cold wind up there, you're going to be a zone 6. Flagstaff zone 5. So you need plants that can go down below 0 because it gets colder there. But generally speaking, we're going to be a zone 7 plus or minus. You're 6, 7, or 8. Yeah, but I'm different. I'm from Prescott Valley. No, you're the same as all the rest of us. You're a zone 7. Come on, zone 7. Yeah, but I live in Paulding. You're a zone 7. Actually, you might be a zone 6 because that cold air spills off of Ash Fork towards you, settles right there in that valley. So you actually get the most extreme out in Paulding. Chino Valley, just a few miles this way. There you guys are zone 7. We're a zone 7 plus or minus. You need plants that can get close to 0. So when you're looking at the tag, just know what you're dealing with. If it says zone 9, 10, 11, 12, those are desert plants. The buyer just said, ship 50 of those to all my stores. I don't care. They'll buy them. and they're selling you a plant that will die in the winter. So you want plants that can come back. So look at your zones. We do have, this is going to be for you folks from the Midwest. Our elevation can cause, you have geraniums right out there in full sun. Folks in California, you love your Japanese maples. You always ask for them. That is a shade plant here. It doesn't like our midday sun in June because of the elevation. Yeah, but they grew in full sun in my yard and in wherever. In LA, well, they won't do it here. Or if they do, it'll be the ugliest plant you've ever seen. You'll hate it. The leaves will scorch, they'll get brown tips. They just aren't going to perform well. The leaves will be small. Put it in the shade. It'll take some morning sun, but it won't take that midday sun. It's going to need more protection. And so that's maybe a little caveat, a little different than what you're used to where you came from. It'll be different. It's an elevation thing. The sun is just more intense here. There's less atmosphere. So we're a mile up in the air. It's just less, the sun is more intense and it'll affect your plants. Your geraniums, it says grows in full sun, and they'll do fine, but I find they bloom longer, better, stronger. And they got a little midday protection. They love the morning sun, that late day sun, no problem. Middle of the day, that's what gets it. Here's the biggest one. This is for you folks in the upper Midwest, folks. You're used to 8 foot topsoil. I mean, come on, Iowa. How you could throw this microphone out in the soil, it would start to grow there. The soil is just so good. Here, we don't have soil, but you're probably going to have to make soil or bring it in or just raised beds. So we've got caliche, rocks. You've never heard the word caliche till you got here. It's this calcium layer that's like bone. It's solid. It does not perk. And so that'll affect you. So you need to reintroduce organics into your soils. There's a few old farms around. I mean, you go out towards Dewey. There's a few old ranches where they've been farming for a while. Skull Valley, the same way. But those are rare. Most of us are in that new subdivision where they just took any soil that we did have, they scraped it off, leveled everything, put your house down. And if you just grow in that, you don't amend it, those plants they just won't grow. They won't die, but they won't grow. They'll sit there and look at you for years. They'll almost mock you going, I defy you to make me grow. I'm not going to do it here. And so they just sit there for years. It's because that soil doesn't have there's no worms. There's nothing good about that soil. So they just sit there. But if you add some organics, so we always push, you need 3 things whenever you plant. You need mulch to reintroduce some organic material. You need some food because there's no nutrients whatsoever in your soil. It's just not going to be there. You're going to have to supplement it. You'll need to fertilize more often here because of that than maybe you're used to. But if you do it, it's magic. I mean, it's like an oasis. Your neighbors will be going, how did you pull that? I've been trying for years to garden like that. How'd you do that? There's this crazy guy on the radio. I listened to him. He said, hey, we need to fertilize more often, amend our soil. And then I said, we need 3 things when you plant: mulch, food, root and grow. Root, we make a compost tea. Plants are going to go into shock when you put them in the ground. They're going to freak out. They're not going to like that heavy soil. They're not going to like the sun. They're not going to like if you get some compost tea, we call it root and grow. It helps stabilize it and it starts to put out new roots. It just takes every time. You put those 3 things down with every vine, every fruit tree, every shade tree, every perennial. Every time you plant those 3 things, it'll be a game changer for you. Just a few extra. If you're going to spend $100 on a new shade tree, you might as well spend the extra $10 and give it the stuff it needs to really thrive and become a real tree quickly for you. If you're putting fruit trees in, a must. You just need that. Another thing to watch while we're on trees: wind. We do have the wind is more intense up here. So you're going to need to protect plants, especially trees, from the wind. So they're going to want to blow. They're going to want to give way to the wind. So they're like a huge parachute. When they first leaf out, they'll just catch all that wind. They start to lean. And our wind comes from a prevailing southwest, day and night, never stops, always blowing in spring. So it starts about March. April, May, June, it's blowing. And then the monsoons come and it changes it up. But you need to stake those trees so they stay upright, especially if you're doing fruit trees. So they're going to load up with 300 pounds of apples or pears or peaches or cherries, apricots, nectarines, whatever it is. They're going to load up with fruit. If they're leaning to the northeast because of that southwest wind, they can load up and they'll just literally fall over. They'll literally fall out of the ground. I've literally seen the roots leap out of the ground. And so stake them so they're straight, at least for that first year or two, and then they will always be straight. So it's something maybe you haven't done in other parts of the country, but you need to do it here. That, and I would say the biggest thing I adjusted to when I started growing here, the water is very alkaline, so which makes all of our gardens alkaline. Now, this is a rare thing. The rest of the country, every other radio show, every other TV show, every other garden program, they're telling you to add hydrated lime. I don't even sell lime, or I might. I can't remember. I'll try to talk you out of it if you have it, because it makes the soil more. We're so acidic, it makes it more alkaline. We don't do that ever here. We're always trying to make the soil acidic. Bring that pH down. We're trying to change the chemistry, make it more acidic all the time. So all of our foods that we sell here, we put soil sulfur in them, so it works with the food to make things more acidic. So you'll find your soil is more alkaline here because of that. So it causes yellow leaves, smaller fruits. They turn yellow. It does some things. There's some insider tips for the newcomers near the area. It'd be a game changer for you. Now, last segment, I'd mentioned some tips, insider tips, gardening for newcomers or new folks, or you just want to up your game, learn a few secrets, little insider tips that really work. If you did not get a copy, you didn't see the paper, you didn't get it, you don't see all the links going to getting you further information, like on garden zones, frost dates, how to plant. You can get access to that. It's super easy. Every time I write an article, it's every week, write a timely article for here. And then I give it to the newspapers. Then I email it out to our garden club members, and then it goes on our blog site. So watersgardencenter.com. It doesn't get very sophisticated. If you try to find us, you will. At the top of the page, it says blog. I don't know, why do they call it a blog? Why don't they call it a garden journal or something? But anyway, blog, it'll be the most recent article there. So just jump in. It'll be right there. It's got all the links. The newspapers actually take out the links. They just want black and white. I don't want any interaction at all. I'm trying to loop things around so you can go explore more if you want. If you want to get more information on that new plant, here's a link to it. Here's where you can even buy it. Here's more. I'm trying to help gardeners. If I help folks, I'm rewarded. Sometimes financially at the register, at the garden center. Community, I'm trying to build community, trying to help people garden smarter, better, stronger. And so if you're tuned in, you like that, great, get more. So that's my goal. Right now, it is the spring season. So we've got 2 acres of plants to fill up. We've started with like 3 semis, and that's it. So we're starting to see plants. I tell you what, I've been doing this for 32 years, and my heart still goes pitter patter every time a new truck comes in with new plants. I just get so excited. This week it was a Lenten rose came in. So the Lenten roses or hellebores. The hellebores arrived. That's the botanical name. So they're in bloom. They're beautiful. The lilacs are here fully budded. I mean, they're beautiful. We're trying to specialize more and more into cocktail trees. So fruit trees that have more than one variety in one tree. This is important for smaller lots. So you can plant, now you can have, most fruit trees, you need 2 varieties. You need and they can't be the same. So it's got to be a Honeycrisp and a Gala apple. Well, we just grafted them onto the same tree, and now they pollinate each other. Now, one tree will do the work of both. And the beauty is when you don't have to harvest everything all at once. So the peaches, you can have this variety over here, then when it's kind of done, this one kind of ripens up. So they ripen up at different times. It takes the pressure off of having to harvest 5 bushels of pears. I don't know what you do with that many pears, but now you can have your keefs, your Bartletts, and Comise all at different times. It's a game changer. So we're trying to specialize more. We introduced that last year, more fruit cocktail varieties of trees, and we sold out. We could get more. So we actually upped our game more. Well, they arrived this week, and now's the time to grab them. So don't, that's something, those specialized things, you don't want to wait until it's too late or you'll miss out. So anyway, garden classes. So today it's fruit trees. We'll be introducing those. So that's the 10th. Every Saturday at 9:30, we have a garden class. Next week is gardening for newcomers. It'll be a big class. If you're new to the area, the region, it's probably worth to drive over, spend an hour with us. You will be a better gardener this spring if you come to this class next. So February 17th, gardening for newcomers. Whether it's rain, shine, we're having a class. And then the 24th, it's evergreens that bloom. Bloom early. There's several varieties of evergreens that actually bloom in spring. We're going to share those. But throughout the week, Lisa and I camp out here at Waters Garden Center. We love talking to fans of this show.